And this is just the latest in a string of indictments and accusations in the ongoing fight against cyber espionage and cyber war. The issue has been propelled to the top of the international agenda, especially in light of the U.S. charging 5 Chinese military officials last month with espionage. This week in Insight, we are looking at the cyber age and the dilemma posted by digital advances. We begin with our series with CCTV's Nathan King. Nathan.
That's right. Thanks, Elaine. First, the unprecedented indictment of the 5 Chinese officers by the U.S. government on charges of espionage. Then the report out of China that says the U.S. is behind most of the cyber attacks against China and others. The issue is becoming one of the national security issues of the 21st century. So we thought we'd start our series Code War with a look at cyber war. But what is it? And how did we get here?
It's got the code, it's going to launch.
1983, when the internet was still in its infancy, the movie War Games envisages a hacker gaining access to America's nuclear arsenal with near catastrophic results. Fast forward to 2010, and hacking a nation's nuclear program becomes a reality. Stuxnet has been called the first truly cyber weapon. A computer virus 20 times more complex than any previous code secretly penetrated Iran's uranium enrichment facilities and caused centrifuges to spin out of control, possibly setting back Tehran's nuclear program years. And all without a shot being fired. And while the United States and Israel are suspected, there is no proof.
The type of attack that seemed to be underneath the radar, that didn't provoke a violent response, kind of operated in this gray area where states like to use some form of coercion but not cross the red line for the use of armed force.
Stuxnet's success meant a planned US or Israeli military attack on Iran's nuclear facilities became unnecessary. Exhibit A for advocates of cyber conflict. But Stuxnet is an exception in the short history of cyber warfare. One of the first national cyber attacks hit here, Tallinn, the capital of Estonia, back in 2007. After a spat with Russia over the removal of a war memorial, government online services were crashed and the country's central bank attacked. In 2008, as Georgia and Russia were involved in a very physical conflict, Georgian networks were hacked. Low-level attacks, perhaps in coordination with the war on the ground. That may have set a pattern for now and the future.
The majority of action is going to be much more low level, more like what we've seen in Crimea, which had to do about information warfare and taking out some networks and some cell phone systems. I think a cyber Pearl Harbor at this point is very unlikely if you think about massive physical destruction and deaths in one unknown attack.
But nations are taking steps to help protect themselves against a so-called cyber Pearl Harbor. Witness this exercise here in Washington, D.C. Cyber Shockwave involved former administration officials working out how to deal with a potential cyber attack on America's infrastructure.
In a normal act of war, you say to your military, launch missiles, launch an army. In an act of war that is taking place on the internet, can you commandeer the telecommunications companies? Can you tell whole industries to shut down? We have not done that in this country.
And low-level cyber conflicts are already all around us, whether it's Philippine hackers from Anonymous attacking government websites or Palestinians targeting Israeli websites. There is also a growing realization that the warriors of tomorrow will be on the web. You can even go to school for it. This is Cyber Gym, a hacker school in Israel where the future cyber warriors of tomorrow can learn defense and offense.
We will see much more attacks in the cyber arena than the military stuff. That's what we believe, because it's much more cheaper, it's much more elegant to do the attack, to conduct attacks in the cyber arena and to have the same damage, and even maybe more.
And as military spending climbs across Asia, more money is being piled into cyber warfare units at a national level. Even here in the US, where defense budgets are being slashed, US Cyber Command is expanding from under 1,000 staff to nearly 5,000 over the next few years.
And Nathan, as you mentioned, it's not just the United States spending more money on cyber issues. What about on the political level? Are higher level discussions being taking place among governments?
That's right. It's, the internet is everywhere, so it has to happen on an international level. Now, efforts are underway at the United Nations, at NATO, and between China and the US, although suspicion, as we know, is high, to try and ban attacks on power stations, water supplies, and other infrastructure that civilian populations depend on. But as the Stuxnet virus proves, it's possible to launch a sophisticated cyber weapon into the heart of a nation's infrastructure and remain virtually anonymous. We'll have lots more on that and lots more all week on our series Code War.